Further debate. Member from Oshawa.
Thank you, Speaker, and I'm glad to be able to stand and speak to this motion and again have the opportunity to speak against the sell-off of Hydro One. This government's stubborn refusal to consider options or to consider stopping the sell-off of Hydro One has been a terrible thing to watch. We know this government doesn't like to listen. I take that back. They like to listen to those who praise them and who perhaps are paid handsomely to advise them, but they sure aren't listening to Ontarians. The priority of this government, actually, Mr. Speaker, is to beer Ontario and not to hear Ontario. So, I'm here today, and hopefully they will listen to the voices I'm bringing with me from my riding, and hopefully they will hear them. So, first, I'd like to share the voice from a group called Keep Hydro Public. Members from this group organized themselves in my riding because this issue is so important. It's a group that came together to bring awareness to their community about the short-sighted sell-off of Hydro One. And they said, Keep Hydro Public is a group of concerned Oshawa citizens. We are not opposed to transit and infrastructure and realize that every budget has plums and barbs, but the sell-off of Hydro One is a barb. Will raise hydro rates and have a direct impact on manufacturing jobs all across Ontario, and we believe it will be difficult to retain the jobs we presently have. Wasteful spending scandals on e-health, Orange, gas plants, software glitches, etc. could have paid for transit infrastructure, etc., without selling Hydro One. So I thank them for their voice, and hopefully the government heard that. Now I'd like us to hear from our City Council. So, Mr. Speaker, on June 8th of 2015, Oshawa City Council passed this resolution, and I know the government already has a copy of it, but I would like to read part of that here today. Be it resolved that the City of Oshawa call on the provincial government to halt the sale of any part of Hydro One and maintain Hydro One as a public asset for the benefit of all Ontarians. Strengthen Hydro One by investing in the next generation of workers and upgrading our electricity transmission infrastructure. Respect the autonomy and local decision-making powers of local distribution companies by not forcing these companies into mergers or sales. And it continues, but of course they have a copy. So, Mr. Speaker, I would now like to bring the voice of business into this legislature. This was published in the September newsletter from the Greater Oshawa Chamber of Commerce. Quote, and the title of the article is Chamber Calls for Transparency on Sale of Hydro One. Quote, rising electricity prices is a collective concern and have put Ontario businesses at a competitive disadvantage, said Bob Malcolmson, CEO and General Manager of the Greater Oshawa Chamber. Quote, the Ontario Chamber Network is concerned that the sale of Hydro One could adversely affect the cost of doing business in the province by adding to the rising price of electricity, said Malcolmson. As such, we are seeking detailed clarification from the government on how the sale will impact electricity prices. So far, Speaker, I have shared the voices of the community, municipal government, and businesses in Oshawa, but there are more voices. Charities in our community providing necessary and basic services to those in need. And incidentally, there's more and more need in our communities. But pressures on charities are also increasing. So one example that was shared with me is from the YWCA Durham, which is a non-for-profit registered charity serving Durham region's most vulnerable for the past 70 years. They offer a variety of programs focusing on women, families, and youth, with a particular focus on women and children victims of violence. Mr. Speaker, over the past 3 years, all three utilities combined increased by almost $55,000, and for them that equates to a 40% increase, which clearly impacts on their ability to deliver service. So, breaking it down further though, hydro rates alone over a 3-year period increased by 41%. As you can imagine, that is having a direct impact on their ability to provide the services that we so desperately need in our communities. So while I'm glad to bring the voices and concerns of groups and organizations, it's always my privilege to speak on behalf of individuals who seldom have the chance to be heard and whose voices are sometimes lost in the conversation. So this is from an email that I received from Eric Nashevich, a concerned individual. And he says, I am writing to express my opposition to the Ontario government's proposed privatization of Hydro One and local publicly operated electricity utilities. I have seen no evidence that there will be benefits for Ontario residents. Private for-profit ownership of hydro will mean higher rates, lower dependability, and an end to public control over this vital service. In addition, Hydro One currently provides around $800 million for the province every single year, revenues that help fund our hospitals, schools, and other public services. The plan to privatize 60% or more of Hydro One will result in most of that revenue disappearing forever. That's hundreds of millions of dollars going every year into the pockets of private owners instead of toward the public services that Ontarians need. I urge you to take my concerns to the Premier and the Minister of Finance. No one-time sell-off is worth the lasting damage that the privatization of public utilities will cause my community and our province. And I thank Mr. Nashevich for his email. Finally, Mr. Speaker, my friend and constituent Susie Boyle shared her concerns with me, her concerns for people struggling in our community to get by. And she says, quote, "One of our older ladies at our church was crying one day because she couldn't pay her hydro bill. She's living in the house that she and her husband lived in for 50 years, and she can't pay the bills. Her hydro is too expensive. Fortunately, our church could help her, but I mean, that's just one lady. How many more seniors are in that same position? Do they have to give up their family home, or do they give up paying for their prescriptions to pay their hydro bills, meaning that their health will suffer, or do they give up buying food?" End quote. I appreciate her question, and I'm sure that members of this legislature have been hearing those questions and those concerns on a regular basis in their offices. So, Mr. Speaker, these voices are from individuals, charities, businesses, and municipal leaders. These concerns are echoed across my community and across every community in this province. These concerns are not partisan, but they are professional, they are personal, and they are sincere. And I think that they're worth listening to, in fairness, and I don't know that they should be disregarded, as we're seeing here again. Government, I hope you've heard these voices today. Please hear them. Listen to people and organizations across the province and turn this ship around, change course, and keep hydro public. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.